Hi there, I'm Darren Wheatley from Foreverland. Today we're looking at the second part of a three-part series on decentralized aggregator apps. In the first episode, we found a template on the internet that would suit our needs and uploaded it to the Foreverland hosting platform. You can click the link above to find that video. In this episode, we're going to be changing that template to suit our needs, including writing some JavaScript to support the data. Let's get into it. So the first thing we need to do is think about what we need to do. It's very important to have a structure if you're going to do some programming, because programming is hard. So based on what we've got on the screen here, we're going to get the right tools. We're going to get the repo from GitHub. We're going to change the HTML template to remove those elements that we don't need. Then we're going to think about what the JavaScript is that we need to complete this project. We're going to write that JavaScript, and then we're going to upload the repo back to GitHub and check that Foreverland has grabbed that and published it to the website. So the right tools depends on who you are, what you want to use. I use this tool called Visual Studio Code, VS Code. It's just a text editor, and you can choose any text editor you want. I like this one because it has Git tools that I can use inside the program to help me push things to GitHub. I believe it's free and you can download it from Microsoft. So the next thing we need to do is look at the repo. And I've already Googled how to clone this in case you don't know. But basically what you need to do is click on the code button, grab the URL, and then type in git clone and the URL. So let's do that. If I go to the code, click this copy button, and then go to my environment. The environment I'm using at the moment is Ubuntu on Windows 10. You can use any environment that you can clone a project to. Git clone and paste in the URL. So now that should be in my directory. If we look at the files, we can see that it's got the images directory, it's got the index.html, the main CSS, and the script.js. If I type code dot, it'll open code, VS Code for me, and we can start looking at the project from here. You can see here that it's got an images directory, index.html, main, and script.js. So everything's matching. If we go back to Ubuntu, you can also type in explorer.exe and it'll open up the Windows Explorer for the code in the Ubuntu WSL. If we double click on index.html, we can refresh ourselves with what the code looks like. So we want to remove the HTML from the template. So looking at this page, we have some text links with the author. We've got a text link with the author and some information as well as an image here. And further down we've got some hero items and some more text. So looking at this template, basically I only want the top half for this demo. So I want to remove the other parts of the HTML. And the best way to do that is to press F12. When you do that, the code debugger comes up, and you can click on elements here. This is Chrome, so it might be a little bit different for other applications, but once you get the pointer, you can start to highlight various areas of the screen. And once you get the bit that you want, you can see here that that section, the top stories and latest stories, are under this main tag. And we've got a main container left and a main container right here. I want to get rid of all of that, as well as this HR, which is that line there. So we switch back to the code and open index.html. I can scroll down a little bit and we can see that there's a bunch of navigation items and a footer at the bottom, but right here is the main tag. There's a number of ways you can get rid of this. You can comment it, for example, but I'm just going to delete it. I'll save that. Now if we go back to the page and refresh, you can see that it's only the top section that we want. And that's perfect, because that's exactly what we want to play with. While we're here in this VS Code, I want to take a look at the HTML format for the items themselves. And you can see here this first Apple glasses section is in H3 tags. And then under the H3 tag there's a line of text and a span. And the span is what you can see formats the name. What we need to do is copy this, because we want to use it later. Now that I've copied it, I'm just going to paste it here for now, just so we can use it later. And then again, I want to get this other section here, and you can see that it's a div inside this banner sub-content div. So let's copy that element as well and paste this code here. And for now, so we don't wreck our code, I'll just comment it. So now we need to think about what JavaScript is needed to complement this HTML that we have. So we need a function that's going to format this and this for each item that we drag in from the internet from somewhere else. So if we go to the script.js file, you can see that there's already some information in here. It's got a link to some buttons, and it lists for click events for those. Now, I don't want any of that, so I'm just going to comment it for now. We'll probably delete it later. What I want to do is write a function called function format text element. And that format text element is basically going to output this format. So we'll grab that from here, and we'll make it a variable here. Now, what we've got here is some title text, and an author. There's a million ways to skin a cat in development, but what I'm going to use is a replacement method. So I'm going to replace the word title with those elements around it, and the word author with the elements, with the actual element and author. So to do that, we're going to need to pass into this function the title and the author. So now that we've got that, we also want to do the similar thing for the image element. And if we go back to our index, we'll get the image element there. So what I've done there is used a slash at the end of each line to escape the return function, so I can put multiple lines of text. You can see that it's still an error, and that's because of the quotes that are used inside the HTML, and I can easily change that by putting single quotes around that instead of double. Okay, so there's no more errors there. Similarly to above, what we want to do is add some tags in for the image. The alt, if we can get one. The title. The topic. The description. The link. And the call to action. So just like above, we need to include those as variables so that we can change them later. So I'm going to make a string variable that we can use for working with, and we'll return that, and the same as in the first function. Now, if we call this format text element, giving it a title and an author, we can manipulate this string and return that string to then be put onto the website. Same with this format image element. It'll manipulate the string and then return the final value. So now that we have the function, I want to be able to split the string at various places and insert the values that we give to the function. To do that, I'm going to create another function. This function accepts a string, looks for a match, and then outputs a different string. You can see here that we're using a split and join technique. There are other ways you can do this. So now we need to change the other functions we wrote to pass in the information and split the string and bring it back. Let's do that now. So I've changed that function now to allow us to call the new function with the various things that have been passed to this function. You may have noticed that I added the image variable, which we forgot previously. What I'd really like to do is add a little bit of checking around the calls to make sure that we're being passed information and we pass that through. Otherwise, let's just use the default. Great, so now hopefully I've got all the bugs out. In the function above, they've got title and author, so let's grab those two and just copy them straight up. So now we've got the functions set up so that we can call these various functions and retrieve the formatted text based on the information we've retrieved from the internet in the aggregator. So let's jump back to the HTML code and trigger some tests to see if it works. We're going to use the No More button on the website to trigger these tests. So as you can see, it works. So let's change the code so that we can test the other element. You can see here that we've got a hot topic and then the image, and our JavaScript has hot topic and then an image. So this should work. But it doesn't. If you ever have the trouble, again, F12, go to sources, find the file you want to debug, and let's actually see what happens. So after a little bit of debugging, we finally have a result. So now our template is ready to accept data from an external feed. But we're going to handle that in the next episode. What we can do now is push that code to Git and then see if it updates for Everland automatically. Let's try that now. Up here on the left on VS Code, you can see there's a number 2. There's a number of changes that have happened in this page. What we can do is stage those changes by pressing the plus, enter a message, click the tick, and these are now ready to go. In terminal, just git push, and we're done. If we go back to Git, you can see here that there was a change 32 seconds ago. Now let's look at our Everland hub.
Today we changed the template that we downloaded off the internet to remove the sections we didn't want and add JavaScript to support the data. Next time we're going to find some data that we can use and hook it into the template so that it's a completed project. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment below and tell me what other projects you'd like me to work on. See you next time!